Buong kamay hugasan araw-araw. Para guarded ang pamilya, ako, ikaw. I-sanitize ang katawan at buong bahay para you can be the solusyon.
Patuloy pa rin ang laban natin sa COVID-19. And together, we can be the solution.
B. Bawal walang mask.
I. Isanitize sa mga kamay. Iwas hawak sa mga bagay.
D. Dumistansya ng 1 metro.
A. Alamin ang totoong impormasyon tungkol sa COVID-19.
Protektahan natin ang sarili at mga mahal sa buhay.
Be the solution sa COVID-19.
Ang COVID-19 ay panibagong kontrabida sa buhay nating mga Pilipino.
Habang unti-unti tayong bumabangon muli, patuloy ang laban natin dito.
Para matalo natin ang kontrabida, we can be the solution.
Kaya mong maging bida, basta susundin ito.
B. Bawal walang mask.
I. Isanitize sa mga kamay. Iwas hawak sa mga bagay.
D. Dumistansya ng 1 metro.
A. Alamin ang totoong impormasyon tungkol sa COVID-19.
Protektahan natin ang sarili at mga mahal sa buhay.
Be the solution sa COVID-19.
Buong kamay hugasan araw-araw. Para guarded ang pamilya, ako, ikaw. I-sanitize ang katawan at buong bahay para you can be the solusyon.
Patuloy pa rin ang laban natin sa COVID-19. And together,
Good morning,
we can be the solution.
everyone.
B. Bawal
It's a
walang
very
mask.
pleasant day because we have a lot of
Isanitize sa mga
students
kamay. Iwas hawak
from
sa mga bagay.
DepEd. So thanks to DepEd for this
D. Dumistansya ng 1 metro.
special endeavor
A.
of our
Alamin ang totoong
NDRRMS.
impormasyon.
So just wait, and before we'll start, can we have our prayer, online prayer, and lupang hinirang, and then we'll proceed with the lecture later on. Thank you so much for joining our NDRM webinar series, part 1.
I'm so blessed, my Lord, I can see you in all the lovely things so fine and true. I see you in the beauty of the flowers and the rain. I see you between the lines of a sweet refrain. I'm so blessed, my Lord, I can see you. Even when I'm lonely and in pain, I see you in the beauty of the stars at night. I see you in my life, I feel alright. I see you, Lord, in sorrow and in happiness. I see you in the glory of sweet success. I see you, Lord, every hour, every day. I can see you, Lord, whenever I pray. I'm so blessed, my Lord, I can see you in the smile of a baby, sweet and true. I can see you in the eyes of my very best friends. I see you in these bonds, just like your love that never ends. I see you, Lord, in sorrow and in happiness. I see you in the glory of sweet success. every hour, every day. I can see you, Lord, whenever I pray. I see you, Lord, in sorrow and in happiness. I see you with the glory of sweet success. I see you, Lord, every hour, every day. I can see you, Lord, whenever I pray. I pray. I can see you, Lord, whenever I pray. I see you, Lord.
Mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
July is National Disaster Resilience Month. As chairperson of the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, I join your participation in our observance with the theme, Tamang Pamamahala at Kahandaan, Kaalaman at Pagtutulungan sa Sakuna at Pandemya ay Kalasag ng Bayan. As we continue to face the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic and the challenges of complex climate and disaster risks, bigger commitment is needed from us to build disaster resiliency. Thankfully, our advocacy and mainstreaming of disaster risk reduction and management in the country have been successful, allowing us to influence a greater number of our citizens. We owe this to our unity, collaboration, and synergy with our stakeholders. They are our partners in building safer, adaptive, and resilient Filipino communities towards sustainable development. This year, we pay attention to the risk governance as the main driver of disaster resilience. Thus, the PDRRMS has led innovations, risk-informed programs, and capacity-building activities to better contextualize the disaster risk. We also focus on the shared responsibility and commitment of social institutions as our kalasag or shield against disasters. Foremost is the family, where individuals become informed, aware, and resilient, and the community, where families are taught adaptation and disaster risk reduction management. Next is our local government units, who serve as frontliners. But we also need all sectors on board to pursue our whole-of-nation approach towards disaster resilience. Towards this end, the government has enhanced its cooperation and collaboration with non-government agencies, organizations, and the people. This way, everybody effectively contributes in implementing disaster prevention, mitigation, preparedness, response, and rehabilitation, and recovery measures. The rainy season approaches. Our task of making our observance remarkable gets doubly harder, especially amidst the pandemic. Nonetheless, the PDRRMS, through the DND-OCD has lined up interesting activities for everyone. Join us and be one of our resilience advocates and disaster risk management practitioners. Thank you very much.
My warmest greetings to all our co-workers in government, our partners in disaster resilience, and most of all, to our countrymen joining us online through the various social media platforms. Good morning. It is my pleasure to welcome everyone to this kickoff activity heralding the start of the observance of the National Disaster Resilience Month for 2021. This year's theme, Tamang Pamamahala at Kahandaan, Kaalaman at Pagtutulungan sa Sakuna at Pandemya'y Kalasag ng Bayan, was selected from hundreds of candidate teams submitted by contestants hailing from various sectors and communities. Allow me to commend the enthusiasm of our countrymen as manifested in their participation to the initial activities in preparation for the 2021 NDRM, the theme writing, NDRM logo, and NDRM theme song contests. At this early point, I congratulate our participants and winners for their most inspiring works. Your contribution has added value to this year's observance. The 2021 NDRM theme calls for a vigorous whole-of-nation effort in building disaster resilience in these times of the new normal. This is the second year where the NDRM is being celebrated while the pandemic rages on. Thus, our theme emphasizes the importance of reinforcing risk governance with the support of the Filipino people as we deal with the challenges of disasters and the pandemic. Resilience is a trait that Filipinos undeniably possess. This is often linked to our ability to smile even during disasters. This characteristic embodies our ability to adapt and improve as demanded by the various adverse situations that we have faced as a nation. The NDRM observance beckons us to continue working to make the signature Filipino smile of resilience clearly stand for our ability to mitigate, prepare, respond, and recover from disasters. The time is now, and the NDRM reminds us to scale up our strategies and efforts in surmounting the impacts of disasters through foresight and preparedness. We have organized several activities as part of this month-long celebration. From competitions to symposia, we intend to engage all our stakeholders. Therefore, I trust that we will continue to see a growing and robust public response and participation to these programs as with the previous years. DRRM and resilience are shared responsibilities of both government and the citizenry. Therefore, it is important that everyone should play their part in all areas of DRRM, and we can start by actively participating in the NDRM activities. Our aim is to make the annual NDRM observance bring our nation closer to the goal of having safer, climate change adaptive, and disaster resilient communities across these islands. The NDRRMC will continue to call for action and cooperation from the national government agencies, local government units, community-based organizations, and the general public to create, organize, and hold disaster resilience campaigns that would increase public awareness and build public support to the RRM. Together, let us strive to bring the Philippines to resilience and progress. Lagi nating tandaan ang tamang pamamahala at kahandaan. Kaalaman at pagtutulungan sa sakuna at pandemya ay siyang kalasag ng bayan. Maraming salamat at mabuhay.
All right, so those were the inspirational messages of our Secretary of the Department of National Defense. and Administrator of Office of Civil Defense, Yusek Ricardo Bihalad. So, let's move forward. Ah, is Mr. Terence John raising his hand? Or can we move forward for a while? Because we will already be introducing, acknowledging our participants, and then introduce our discussant for today. So, may I call on, uh, in helping me with the introduction of our discussant, can I ask, can I ask the presence of Mr. Ranilo Edar, our DRRM focal person of DepEd, to help me introduce with our discussant for today. Sir Edar?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Janice,
good morning,
good
sir.
morning. Mayong buntag sa atong mga estudyante no gikan sa Bugo, Baes, Bayawan ug sa Karkar. Again, good morning sa tanan. Okay? I think before we'll introduce our discussant this morning, allow me to acknowledge our participants from the different division offices within Region 7. Okay, so to introduce our participants, no, atong ikuan na at least engaging and lively. So once nga atong tawgon ang inyong division, please, no, kung unsa may ato ang slogan sa inyong division, like for instance slogan, campaign slogan ni Presidente Digong sa ganito, change is coming. Kung kay irap gani, sa ito, laban sa hirap, hirap para sa mahirap. Okay? So that is an example of slogan. Once nga matawag ang inyong division, palihog, ato dayong motubagta kay para ma-recognize ang inyong division, kay para may monitimilhan nga you are present in this activity. Okay? So I will give you 2 minutes to prepare your slogan in your division. Okay? Division DRM coordinators may request to you to facilitate the preparation of your slogan in your division. Last 1 minute. Okay, I think it's already time. Okay, we'll start in alphabetical order. So this time I call by city division participants. By city. Present ba ang by city?
Yes, sir.
Okay, unsa may ato ang slogan gani?
Sitting of yan. Sige.
Your safety is our shared responsibility.
Okay, again, by city division.
Your safety is our shared responsibility.
Okay, good. So welcome by city division participants, mga learners nato no sa by city division. Okay, once again, good morning sa inyong tanan sa by city division.
Good
Now,
morning.
next is Bayawan City Division. Bayawan City Division. Walay taga Bayawan. Bayawan City Division. Wala. Okay, let's proceed to Bugos City Division. Bugos City Division.
From Bugos City, sir, please unmute your mic, mga taga-Bugo, and let
Yes,
us
sir.
all say, go! Padayon!
Dayon Bogo.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, salamat. Salamat Bugos City Division participants, ang atong mga learners sa Bugos City Division. Okay? Now, let's proceed to Karkar City Division. Karkar City Division. Okay, Karkar City Division. Are you ready? Naaba diri ang Karkar City Division?
Naa.
Okay. Go ahead, Karkar City Division. Nawa.
Walang pagpamahaw, sir.
Okay, don't worry. Again, welcome to our webinar about Philippine Disaster Risk Reduction and Management System. Okay, this time allow me to introduce our discussant this morning. Our discussant this morning. He obtained his bachelor's degree in civil engineering, University of Bohol, Tagbilaran City, a registered civil engineer, the eldest son among the 5 children of a retired military officer. Now this time, this is na, and a retired public school principal. He was born on September 28 in Tagbilaran City, where he spent his childhood. He joined the Office of Civil Defense, Department of National Defense on August 2004, and during those years in the government service, he had occupied various positions and assignments. In Region 7, he humbly started as the Area Civil Defense Officer for Bohol for 4 years prior to her assignment to the regional office. He was designated as the Regional Administrative Officer, Regional Information Officer, Deputy Operations Officer, and Deputy Area Civil Defense Officer for Cebu. And currently, he is the Division Chief, DRRM for OCD Region 7, based in Cebu City. He has attended various trainings, seminars, and workshops like the Forum on Epic Senior Disaster Management, Capacity Building for Local Executives, or the so-called LCA, then Cluster Approach on Disaster Preparedness and Response, series of contingency planning and other emergency management trainings, local and abroad, like ASEAN Regional Workshop on Local Flood Early Warning System, Group Training Course on Disaster Mitigation, Preparedness and Restoration of Infrastructure in Osaka, Japan. Attended the ASEAN Disaster Risk Reduction Program in Kobe, Japan. Training on Incident Management System, or the so-called ICS. Hosted by United States Forest Service training on chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear, and explosive, or the so-called CBRNE, hosted by the Government of Canada and Malaysia, standard course on water sanitation and hygiene in Melbourne, Australia, among others. He is a recipient of various commendations and awards from different LGOs, national government agencies, and military honors. during the Special Operations Program and Office Merit Award given by the Interpol Secretary General regarding support involving disaster victim identification operations during the sinking of MV Princess of the Stars during Typhoon Frank in June 2008. And in the field of humanitarian assistance and disaster response, or the so-called HADR, including the conduct
Sir Idor, sir, nawala ka, sir. Pa-unmute lang balik, sir. Thank you.
Sir Philip, ganina pa itong nawala, Sir Philip.
Dilira, sir, dilira. Mga kaditra.
Okay. Again, our discussant this morning, let's all welcome Engineer Vernel B. Balaba.
Thank you, Sir Idar, for that humble introduction, sir. Mayong buntag natong tanan.
Mayong buntag.
Ay, salamat. Kay nay mitubag. Mayong buntag natong tanan.
Mayong buntag.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Mayong buntag sa mga... Thank you. Thank you. Please turn on your camera aron makita ko sa inyong mga kagwapo o kagwapa. Sige. Ang dili mo turn on sa ilang camera, dili tagaan o 500 pesos ni Sir Idar. Aron makakita mi sa inyong mga faces, beautiful faces. Remember that the morning should be right and we should be very guwapo and guwapa in the morning and also in the afternoon. Or the entire day. Sige. Thank you. Sige. Let me share my screen, gentlemen and ladies. Nakita na ba sa tanan?
Sure.
Clear.
Okay, thank you. Once again, mayong buntag sa tanan. I will be your subject matter expert. As what Sir Idar said, I will be your discussant on the Philippine Disaster Risk Reduction and Management System in the new normal. Okay, we are still on the pandemic paman, no? In fact, ang atong mga probinsya ug atong lungsod naapay quarantine status. So we will be discussing today the PDRRMS in the new normal. So let me lend your ears, your eyes, and likewise your questions will be catered later after my discussion, okay? Thank you. So let me begin by saying mayong buntag again sa tanan, and in behalf of Director Marlo L. Salazar, the Regional Director of the Office of Civil Defense, and likewise the Chairperson of the Regional Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, we welcome everybody to this orientation on PDRRMS in the new normal. So let me proceed with my slide. This will be the scope of my presentation, gentlemen and ladies. The Philippine Disaster Risk Profile will be discussing the paradigm shift to DRRM, which is, the meaning is Disaster Risk Reduction and Management. The third one will be what are the DRRM thematic areas and what are the challenges ahead in the implementation of PDRRMS during the pandemic. Okay, so before proceeding, let me inform you that I am now located in the Joint Coordinating Center, Emergency Operations Center under the Regional Task Force for COVID-19 operation, disaster operation. So makita nyo sa likod na yung mga data in relation to our operations sa COVID-19 at the regional level. So let me proceed again. Oh, parang naghang. Nag-hang up akong stop share sana ko ha. Sorry kay nag-hang ang akong presentation. Let me share again my slides. Nakita ba tanan?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So let me proceed ha. Anything you will naamoy ma-observe, please write down in the chat box. Then the secretariat will be catering your questions later. Ayaw niya. Bakit ito? Kailangan. Ayan na. Kailangan. Kana, nakita? Nakita ba?
Yes,
sir.
Okay, thank you. Sige. We will be first discussing the Philippine Disaster Risk Profile. So, this is the definition of what is a disaster. First, it is a serious disruption of the function of a community or a society. Meaning, na-disrupt ang iyang normal nga function because naay naka-disrupt niya. No? Probably natural hazards or human-induced hazards. So later on, we will be discussing the two kinds of hazards. But first, ang disaster DI is a serious disruption of a functioning community or a society. Na to the point nga dili na siya makabalik sa iyang normal nga function because naay naka-disrupt niya. Nakita ninyo sa caricature diha that exceeds its ability to cope up using sa iyang kaugalingon nga resources. Mao nang mangayo siya external nga tabang. And ang end state ana kung adunay disaster sa inyong community is adunay pagkamatay sa daghang tao, adunay mga butang nga naguba, apil na ang atong butang sa balay, there will be economic losses, imong daddy, imong mami, imong papag, imong mama dili nakatrabaho because naguba sa dang ilang gitrabahoan. And likewise, dili nakakita sa normal nga environmental setting. Kay giguba man siya sa maong hazard. Mao nay end state no sa usa ka lugar nga maigo. Mo nang matawag siya og disaster. Next. As we all know, I hope everybody is reading also your assignments during your class that our country kanang gibutang sa lingin nga itom, the Philippines, is located in what we call Pacific Ring of Fire. It is a term used. It is a term being used by scientists that the color orange, kung nakita ninyo, naa diha ang mga dagkong fault line, no? Mga dagkong liki sa kalibutan wherein ang atong nasod belongs to that one of the country that belongs to that Pacific Ring of Fire that has, our country has 300 volcanoes, be it active or inactive. And likewise, naapagyud tay 20 earthquakes per day, according to the experts. And probably you know the office sa PHIVOLCS. Natay 20 earthquakes daily and 300 volcanoes. That is why we are prone to this kind of hazard. Next. Oh, muhang yun siya. Oh my gosh. Something wrong. Pil, murag muhangit siya, Pil. Janice. Oh. Sorry guys ha, kay muhanga pang akong presentation.
It's okay.
Thank you.
Welcome. Hello.
Yes, teka lang ha.
Ay sir, pwede ra po kami na lang ang mo-share screen sir, pa-send na lang mi sa ibang presentation sir.
Sige Pil, sige. Ako lang kuhan. For a while, gentlemen and ladies ha.
Okay.
I-messenger lang na ako, Pil. Oh. Murag dako ang kuan, Phil. Dako ang messenger na ko. Asa man i-email na lang
My
nako.
warmest greetings to all our co-workers in government.
Our country has encountered several incidents. We have learned from our past.
We cannot prevent the disasters from happening, but we can mitigate their effects on our people.
The government has a well-defined and in-place response system. During disaster response, the DND plays a big role through the Secretary of National Defense, the Armed Forces of the Philippines, and the Office of Civil Defense. You can see here the Operation Center. It is a platform for coordination among different agencies involved in disaster response, and this was equipped in the year 2017. And we are building more of this kind of facilities. The DND has two bureaus that it can rely on for disaster response. First is the Armed Forces of the Philippines.
The Armed Forces of the Philippines is always at the forefront of disaster management.
Whenever there's a disaster, they are the ones that are already prepared even before an event happens.
The OCD, meanwhile, has the overall implementing arm and coordinator of the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council.
Okay.
The work of the PDRRMS is
I was discussing about our country located inside Pacific Ring of Fire. Next will be our country. As you can see in the slide, unsa man na siya? Buhok. Ang atong nasod is nabilong sa Pacific Typhoon Belt. What do you mean by this one? Aside that it means that our country belongs or located in the equator, unya naapagyud siya duol sa Pacific Ocean, wherein majority of typhoons is ana siya magmugna, no? Ana sa Pacific Ocean magmugna o typhoon. Mao nang gibutang diha sa slide nga ang atong nasod maigo og an average of 20 typhoons per year. Then sa ubos, exporter kuno ta og typhoons. Do you believe on that, gentlemen and ladies? Nganong export? Yes, we are. Some of my classmates from training overseas before pandemic, that whenever the typhoons hit our country, unya mo labang siya atong ihatag na nga mga bagyo sa ubang nasod like Vietnam, China, and Japan. So manang makita ninyo dili na buhok ha kanang color blue, daghag linya. But those are the track of typhoons for how many years back. So dili na buhok, but mo na mga tracking sa mga bagyo mga previous years and previous years. What happened to you? Good. Teka lang ha, kay mihang na sa...
Our country has encountered several incidents. We have learned from our past.
We cannot prevent the disasters from happening, but we can mitigate their effects on our people.
The government has a well-defined and in-place response system. During disaster response, the DND plays a big role through the Secretary of National Defense, the Armed Forces of the Philippines, and the Office of Civil Defense. You can see here the Operation Center. It is a platform for coordination among different agencies involved in the disaster response. And this was equipped in the year 2017. And we are building more of this kind of facilities. The DND has 2 bureaus that it can rely on for disaster response. First is the Armed Forces of the Philippines.
The Armed Forces of the Philippines is always at the forefront of disaster management.
Whenever there's a disaster, they are the ones that are already prepared even before an event happens.
The OCD, meanwhile, has the overall implementing arm and coordinator of the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council.
The work of the PDRRMS is actually 24 hours a day monitoring what disasters will strike any part of the country.
The role of the Armed Forces of the Philippines during disasters is to assist the National Disaster Risk Reduction Management Council. It is deployed anywhere in the Philippines to provide technical level search and rescue and retrieval operations. We train for water search and rescue, collapsed structure search and rescue, high-angle search and rescue, emergency medical services, and hazardous materials.
Our servicing capability to our people has improved as well, in the sense that we have seen the steady reduction of casualties. We learn to be more proactive, we prepare earlier, we prepare our people earlier. They have been improving in all these years. The professionalism, the character of our workforce, the civil defense staff cannot be oversimplified.
Janice.
Yes, engineer.
Naa sa Viber na ko gi-forward ni Viber account ni
Institute
Philip.
of Volcanology and Seismology, or PHIVOLS.
Okay, engineer.
PHIVOLS
Sige,
is a
thank
service
you.
institute of the Department of Science and Technology that is mandated to mitigate disasters that may arise from volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, tsunami, and other related geotectonic phenomena.
Sorry guys may
PHIVOL's
problema tingin ba sa
operations focus on monitoring and warning,
yung mga
research and
glitches.
development to evaluate the occurrence and scale of the geological events, hazards and risk assessment to determine areas that can be affected and impacts that can happen, and awareness and capacity building activities to reduce risk from geological hazards. PHIVOL's monitors 10 of the 24 active volcanoes in the Philippines, operates 109 earthquake monitoring stations that are strategically located all over the country, and 29 sea level stations and 53 alerting stations along the coast for tsunami monitoring and warning. In this virtual tour, you will see the PHIVOL's Volcano Monitoring Data Receiving Center and the Earthquake and Tsunami Monitoring Data Receiving Center, equipped with state-of-the-art instruments. From this, PHIVOL's provides timely information and warning to different stakeholders. PHIVOL's also developed innovations on disaster risk reduction for easy access to information and quick hazards assessment. Some of these innovations include the Rapid Earthquake Damage Assessment Software, or RADAS.
Engineer, I will try this one. I hope this will be okay.
Impact assessment.
I will be the one
The
to
Hazard
share
Hunter
screen
TH
your
application
presentation.
for quick and easy-to-use multi-hazards assessment. The How Safe is My House application, a simple tool for owners and occupants to evaluate the safety of concrete hollow block houses to earthquakes. And the Volcano PH Info app that provides latest volcano information, bulletins, and advisories.
Wait for a while, Sir Phil. Sir Engineer.
Volcano Monitoring and Eruption Prediction Division is responsible for the National Volcano Monitoring and
You may now
Warning
proceed,
Program.
Engineer.
It operates real-time
Miss
with
Jan.
integrated
Are we
multi-parameter
still good,
volcano
gentlemen
monitoring
and ladies?
system. The Seismological
Yes, sir, we are.
Observations and Earthquake Prediction Division
Sige.
is charged
So,
with the
let me
National
proceed,
Earthquake
ha?
Monitoring and Information and the National...
Our country is located in what experts say is Pacific Typhoon Belt, no? So we have an average of 20 typhoons per year, and our country as exporter of typhoons. So next slide. Muhang up yun siya. Okay, so this slide shows the examples of natural hazards and likewise the human-induced hazards. So kung akong gingon ganiha nga, the natural hazards, ang example ani are those checked, no? Those are checked hazards like typhoons, floods, storm surge, earthquakes, tsunamis, volcanic eruptions, landslides, and drought. I know for sure nga kamong diha sa Negros Oriental, specifically si Baay City, naka-experience na ning floods, di ba, dati? And likewise, si Bugo, kusog kayo milabay diha si Typhoon Yolanda before. And on the right side, gentlemen and ladies, we have list of an example for human-induced hazards like fires, accidents,
Recording in progress.
be it in the sea, land, aircraft crash, pollution, civil disturbance, terrorist attacks, explosions, and armed conflicts. No, and recently we have an aircraft that crashed in Patikul, Sulu. So those are human-induced related hazards. Next slide, please. Okay, kaning gipakita din nga slide is an example to the natural hazards that occur way back 2009 katong tropical storm Ondoy. Nga nagpakita siya nga dihay 464 nga namatay, 37 ang missing, and 529 were injured. and there were 4.9 million people were affected, and there were damages to properties mikabat sa 11 billion pesos. Okay, that is Tropical Storm Ondoy way back 2009. Next slide. Sunod katong grabe kaayo nga Typhoon Yolanda sa 2013. I don't know pila pa inyong edad ana nga there was a recorded 6,300 dead, 1,062 ang missing, and na-injured nga 28,688. And wherein 16 million Filipinos were affected. And there was a damages of 89.6 billion ang mga accumulated nga figures after the aftermath of Typhoon Yolanda in 2013. Next slide, please. So another example sa natural hazards katong mga major nga earthquake in 2019 wherein naigo ang Porac, Pampanga og magnitude 6.1, ang Batanes og 5.9 magnitude, ang Zambales og 6.1 magnitude, ang Eastern Samar of 6.5 magnitude, ang Cotabato og magnitude 6.6, and Davao del Sur of 6.9, and several other earthquakes occurred in that year. So one of the natural hazards is also the major tremor that experienced in our country. Next slide. And this one is, if you still remember, kay bago pa man last year pa mikuyog sad ni siya sa pandemic, ang Taal volcano eruption last year, wherein 737,000 individuals were affected, unya dihay 3 billion pesos were incurred due to damages. So Taal volcano, if you are reading and listening to the news, nanapod na siya ay volcanic activity karon, no? 2021 ang Taal volcano. Next slide. And after sa natural hazard, we go to the examples of human-induced hazards. Wherein way back 2006, dihay usa ka dako nga panagtigom sa mga tao dito sa Manila nga giingon og Wawawi Stampede, no? Katong naggumikan sa nagdikit-dikit ang tao, unya pagpanaga nila kay gustong mosulod, dihay natumba, unya na ay natumbahan, manang daghan ang nangamatay. So there were 73 dead while 392 were injured. So that was caused by human, no? Gumikan sa tao, daghan ang namatay. Next slide. Ikaduha is, if you still remember guys, the Quirino Grandstand hostage taking. Nga 8 ang namatay nga mga tourist and there were 13 injured. And there was a Filipino also nga namatay adto. So it was a very unfortunate day for us in relation to human-induced hazards. So these are human-induced events nga nahitabo gyud. Next slide. Sunod is kanang mga community fires, no? Katong Kentex factory ni siya og mga guma wherein na-trap tong iyang mga trabahante, mao nang nasunog tong 74 katao, no? So namatay tong 74 katao to this human-induced event way back 2015. Next slide please. And some 4 years ago, katong Marawi crisis, no? It is still an example of human-induced event or hazard. Katong gera sa Marawi City wherein 87 ang namatay ng mga sibilyan. There were 350,000 displaced individuals and mikabat og 17 billion ang damages to properties gumikan antong human-induced nga events, no? Dihay gera dito. Next slide, please. So, what are the effects of disasters from 1905 to 2017? So, 1905 to 2017, pila man na katuig. Mikabat na siya o munay epekto sa disaster ha, mga estudyante. Diha na 81,000 ang namatay, gumikan sa nagkadaiyang katalagman nga nahitabo sa atong Pilipinas. There were 220,000 injured and 6 million were homeless due to effects of disaster, while 85 to 422 billion pesos were direct estimated cost of damages per year yan, per year, within the span of from 1905 to 2017. So, ingana ka grabe ang epekto sa disaster sa tao o ang iyang mga kabtangan. Bilyones, dili siya maingon og centavos lang, but bilyones. Next slide, please. Then, according to the World Risk Index report way back 2019, ikasiyam ta sa maong listahan nga gipakita diya sa slide, ikasiyam ta nga naa sa riskgo nga country in relation to natural disaster. Pero sa mga previous years like 2013, ikatulo ta in 2011 and 2013. Sa 2014, ikaduha ta. Then, mibalik na sa tag ikatulo atong 2015 to 2018. But now, mga 2 years back, is ikasiyam ta. No? Ipakita diya ang Philippines, 20.69 ang scoring niya when it comes to the risk index report sa 2019. So still, ang atong nasod is risk gihapon in terms of the natural and also human-induced hazards than other countries as well, like Vanuatu, mga Pacific chain of island ni siya, Tonga, Solomon Islands, Guyana, Papua New Guinea, Brunei Darussalam, Guatemala, and of course our country is number 9. Next slide, please. Okay. So now we will be talking about PDRRMS, though our country is experiencing natural and human-induced hazards, but we have to set our mind to the new normal nga bisag natay mga hazards nga nahitabo sa Pilipinas, but still labi na rong mga panahon na last year and this year we are still on the pandemic because of COVID-19. So the next slide would illustrate some of the programs and projects that will also, we have to bear in mind, bisag na ata maigo ta katalagman, but still we will maintain the new normal programs and activities. Next slide, please. So, itang mga Pilipino, we have to shift our paradigm to DRRM. No? Sige, next slide. Okay. But before proceeding, ang pag-implement sa DRRM, adunay legal basis nga giingon og Republic Act 10121. Di ba nagpakita ko ganiha sa usa ka dakong bagyo way back 2009 katong Typhoon Ondoy. Typhoon Ondoy nga naigo ang Metro Manila. So adtong 2010 na gipagawas ang usa ka balaod Munang ang number sa balaod is 10121. Republic Act 10121, wherein mao ni legal basis, gentlemen and ladies, mga estudyante, sa pag-implement sa Pilipinas sa Disaster Risk Reduction and Management or DRRM, wherein there will be use of directives, skills, and capacities ang ipakita diha. And there will be implementation of strategies and policies, and likewise, what will be the programs and projects and activities that will lessen the impacts of hazards and disasters to our communities. So nakabutang na diha sa balaod. Next slide, please. Sa una, mga estudyante, reactive ang mga gipanghimo sa atong mga lideres when it comes to the natural and human-induced, the natural hazard, no? Reactive ta. Maghuwat ra og naay mga panghitabo, then ana pa mo aksyon. So sa una, naay giingon nga reactive, nga gipakita diha nga ang pag-implementar sa maong programa sa una was gikan sa ibabaw padong sa ubos. Kinsa man ang ibabaw? Kinsa tong namunuan sa ibabaw, ihatag lang padong sa ubos, padong sa local government unit. Ikaduha, adunay pagtuo nga ang disaster is a function of physical hazards. While ang ikatulo, kita diha ana rata mo focus sa response kung naana, so magpaabot na lang taog nay dakong katalagman, then ana rata mo aksyon. No, mo nay gipasabot sa reactive. While sa next slide, next slide please. Ato ning naatay sa bagong balaod sa Republic Act 10121, ang iyang prinsipyo is proactive na. Wala pa nahitabo, pero aduna nay integrated bottom-up participatory. Mo nang kamong mga estudyante o kitang naa sa gobyerno, adunay mga advance nga mga activities nga gihimo. So kanang gipakita sa slide karon, we are always doing that during every quarter. Unsa man na kanang National Simultaneous Earthquake Drill, that is bottom-up participatory, and other activities that reflects proactiveness in relation to the natural hazards. No, before siya maigo, aduna tay daghang activities nga himuon before ta maigo. Unya, ikaduha, disasters are reflection of vulnerability. That is why experts are studying our places, our homes, and our areas nga kung ang usa ka lugar is vulnerable, aduna siya advance nga information for the planners to execute activities before mahitabo ang usa ka talagman. Ang ikatulo, there is an integrated approach or whole of the nation approach when it comes to proactive activities. Mo na makita ninyo sa ikatulo nga litrato or picture, ubos nga tuo nga adunay dili lang usa or duha ka tawo, but it is an integrated approach from other government agencies and non-government organization as well in relation to proactiveness of this Republic Act in dealing with the natural hazards. So next slide please. Okay. I hope nga dili na ni unang nakita og nadungog ninyo ha. Ang National Disaster Risk Reduction Management Council, NDRRMC. Kung nakita ninyo sa mga balita before maigo ang atong Pilipinas ug Baguio, adunay mga personalities nga mag-meeting unya makita ni ninyo siya, NDRRMC. Building na diha sa tuo, nga nadiha ang Operation Center sa National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, and likewise, that is the symbol on the left side, wherein it is the highest organized and authorized body in our country to implement DRRM. So, mana siya. Next slide. Ayaw nakalimtin ninyo ha, kaya niyag mugawas na sa inyong exam. Next slide please. Wherein, kay konseho man siya mga estudyante, ang konseho naglangkob na siya og usa ka secretary or chairperson. No, kay naa man gyud mangulo sa usa ka konseho or council. So ang Secretary of the Department of National Defense sits as the chairperson of the National Disaster Risk Reduction Management Council. Unya naa siya'y busy nga mga chairperson or ikaduha. There are 4 vice chairperson under the NDRRMC that caters the 4 thematic areas of DRRM, wherein the Secretary of the Department of Science and Technology is the Vice Chairperson for Disaster Prevention and Mitigation, while the Secretary of the DILG is the Vice Chairperson for Disaster Preparedness, while the SWD Secretary is the Vice Chairperson for Disaster Response, and while the Director General of the National Economic Development Authority sits as the Vice Chairperson for Rehabilitation and Recovery. While si Yusek Ricardo Halad, katong nagbarong ganiha og puti, sits as the Executive Director of NDRRMC, while he is also the OCD Administrator. Unya, kay council man ni siya, aduna siya'y 45 ka miyembro, kasagaran ani mga department secretaries, no? Aside sa akong gisgutan nga 4 ka book sa ibabaw, kanang ubos 45 ka departments, government agencies, financial institution like SSS, GSIS, quasi-government agency, mga liga sa mga mayor, vice mayor, mga kapitanes o mga sangguniang kabataan, and other civil society organizations that would help the National Disaster Risk Reduction Management Council in implementing DRRM programs in our country. So next slide, please. While the Office of Civil Defense is the executive arm and secretariat of the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council. Next slide, please. Then, sirs and ma'am, our NDRRMC Operation Center is the facility for situation monitoring and coordination during emergencies. So 24/7 na siya, 24 hours and 7 days in a week. So it is a facility for situation monitoring and coordination during emergencies. So it is located inside Camp General Emilio Aguinaldo in Quezon City. Next slide, please. So, sirs and ma'am, we have this slide na atay mga DRRM network, no? So, kung adunay National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, naapod tay 17 regional DRRM councils. We have 81 provincial DRRM councils, 145 city DRRM councils, 1,489 municipal DRM councils, and 42,044 barangay DRRM committees, no, as our DRRM network. Next slide. please. Okay. For this slide, sirs and ma'am, during emergencies, we have a coordination mechanism being followed kung adunay emergency situation in our country. Okay, ngani ha. Wherein, kung usa or duha ka sityo ni anang usa ka barangay is affected by natural or human-induced hazards, the barangay captain will be the lead role in the response to that hazard that may occur in that barangay, or the barangay development council, wherein si kapitan mao may nag-lead sa barangay development council. So kung usa or duha or kapin ka sitio is affected, the one who will lead in that operation will be the barangay development council, specifically si barangay kapitan. So sakata, kung usa, duha or kapin ka barangay will be affected to that emergency or hazard, the city mayor or the municipal mayor will take the lead on that disaster operation or coordination during emergencies. When two or more, usa, duha or kapin sa duha ka mga syudad or munisipyo is affected, the one who will be coordinating for that emergency is the provincial governor or provincial DRRM council, wherein the provincial governor also is the chairperson of that provincial DRRM council. So karon sa kanta, kung two or more provinces are affected, the regional DRRM council will be taking the lead for that coordination during emergencies, wherein si Director Marlo Salazar as the OCD regional director, and he is also the regional chairperson of the regional DRRM council. But kung two or more regions are affected, the one who will take the lead is the National Disaster Risk Reduction Management Council. So kinsa tong chairperson sa National DRRM Council? Si Secretary Delphine Lorenzana, or the Secretary of the Department of National Defense. No, kung siya na ang take the lead kung two or more regions are affected. So in the case of Typhoon Yolanda, kay 5 man to ka region, the one who will be taking the coordination during that emergency is the National Disaster Risk Reduction Management Council. Next slide, please. What are the DRRM thematic areas in the new normal? Next slide, please. Okay. It is stated in Republic Act 10121 and the NDRRMC policy, and likewise, kay karon kay naapamanta sa pandemic, we also observe the minimum public health standards. No? As you can see, naanay daghang gipang implement nga mga minimum public health standard by the Department of Health as the authorized national government agencies in the implementation of the minimum public health standard for this new normal kay pandemic pamanta. And likewise, fighting COVID-19 na ay mga national action plan framework nga gisunod from National Action Plan Phase 1, Phase 2, Phase 3, and probably mugawas na ng Phase 4 to fight COVID-19. Mao nay mga thematic areas now in the new normal, and you can browse in the internet when it comes to these references, gentlemen and ladies. No? So please take note of these references when it comes to the new normal thematic areas for DRRM. As your as you're learning, and please browse that in the internet as well. Maunang na ako'y nakita ganiha nga mga estudyante nga bisag nagduol mo pero you are wearing your face mask because that is being required, though it is a blended learning, but we are still required to have our face mask, labi nagmagdikit-dikit. But on my case, ako raman dire, so wala sa lang ko kay wako magmask. Pero kung daghan na ang tao dire, doon na nay mask nga. I will be wearing a mask. Next slide, please. Okay. Under disaster prevention and mitigation, kanang gipakita diha sa left side, mo anay mga usual activities. Sa wala pa ang pandemic, no? Wala pa ang pandemic. But sa new normal, during the pandemic, on the right side, these are now the activities. Okay. Akong basahon sagtag sa tagsa. Under the new normal activities, under disaster prevention and mitigation, we have to use of digital, distant-based, and paperless early warning system. Adunay epidemics and disease outbreaks as part of disaster risk. No? Kay naa naman pa sa atong palibot ang COVID-19. And we always use of current COVID-19 as benchmark for planning, and likewise contact tracing tools and applications. Next slide, please. Under disaster preparedness, wherein the one who take lead on this program is thematic area is the ILG. On the left side is the usual activities, and on the right side is the new normal activities, wherein risk and crisis communication, use blended learning methodologies, stockpiling of PPEs and other medical supplies, and strengthening also our isolation and treatment capacities, and strengthening also an institutionalization of contact tracing system in our area. Sabi na og naigo atong area og mga daghan nga COVID-19 positive. Next slide. Ikatulo, si disaster response is ang vice chair ani, the one who takes the lead is also the DSWD. So this is their usual activities before pandemic, and on the right side is the new normal activities. Hello, Miss Glacia, ibasan madungog ko nimo, ma'am. So again, this is the new normal activities under disaster response. We always maintain the minimum health standards in all response protocol, ensuring safety of our responders as well, management of COVID-19 evacuation centers, integration of COVID-19 in pre-disaster risk assessment and rapid damage assessment and needs analysis. And we always include disinfection on packages and our PPE, no? Personal protective equipment. Next slide. Under disaster rehabilitation and recovery, under National Economic Development Authority, on the left side is their usual activities, while on the right side, under new normal, mo ni ilang mga activities nga gibuhat since last year and up to this year. Integration of COVID-19 in post-disaster needs assessment, integration of health factors as part of disaster, rehabilitation and recovery, provision of recovery measures for local economy, designing COVID-19 sensitive house and shelter models, and COVID-19 sensitive livelihood options. So these are the new normal activities under disaster rehabilitation and recovery. What are the challenges, sirs and ma'am? What are the challenges that we are facing, especially to this new normal? Next slide, please. Okay, number one, we have to buy in of our stakeholders, meaning we have to encourage our stakeholders to implement those new normal activities. And remember, DRRM is a way of life. And we need also for prioritization when it comes to those activities and continue to innovate, especially you students is still young at mind and heart. So we have to continue innovate for the betterment of our communities. Next slide, please. For the NDRRM efforts to address new normal challenges as part of our new normal challenges, we have to migrate to blended learning. Kay di pa man pwede ang face-to-face, as you can see, no? Gipakita diha nga adunay migration to blended learnings. And likewise, we always advocate DRRM, just like what we are doing right now, webinars and other advocacies through virtual teleconferencing on DRRM. So first round pa ni siya, gentlemen and ladies, when it comes to our new normal activities. Next slide. So muna akong giingon, no, blended learning, online learning, and likewise there are advocacies and webinars now being implemented since last year and up to this year when it comes to DRRM. Next slide. And also, sirs and ma'am, we have to observe minimum public health standards in all our DRRM activities. So, di pa pwede magdikit-dikit. Manang makita ninyo sa picture nga, doon na siya mga barrier. Manang, please be very careful kay nakita ba nako ganiha nga adunay estudyante nga nagmask pero tapad sila. Kay nakita nato aduna may barrier. So be very careful. You always bring with you also your alcohol, your personal alcohol, and always wear your mask. Kung magdikit-dikit, bawal gyud na magdikit-dikit. And other minimum health public standard, no, or protocols. Next slide, please. And sirs and ma'am, and likewise to our students, this is the information when it comes to the capacity building and training service of the Office of Civil Defense and the NDRRMC. If please copy this references, sirs and ma'am, when it comes to capacity building and training service of the Office of Civil Defense. Just in case that you want to avail some of the online class, and likewise, please do so. Call us and don't hesitate to send your letters as well, request letters as well when it comes to blended learning. Next slide. That would be all, sirs and ma'am, our dear students. Thank you for listening, and I'll give the floor now to our secretariat for the next part of our orientation on PDRMS. Thank you for listening on Maayong Buntag sa tanan. Please open your camera, sirs and ma'am. Thank you also.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Sige, please unmute yourself lang una, then the secretariat will be handling the question and answer portion now. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Bill?
Thank you, Sir Balaba, sir, for that brief discussion with regards to the our Philippine Disaster Risk Reduction and Management system. No? So, any questions?
Thank you, sir.
Any questions kay Engineer Neil?
Bye-bye.
So, napa may pangutana? Napa may gusto iklaro kay Sir Balaba? Rabong napa siya?
Wala na. Thank you.
Wala na?
Na mga bata pa kayo o tingog. How about sa mga bata pa gihapon og tingog pero dili na bata og edad?
Good morning, engineer, no?
Thank you. Yes, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Sir, we are very much happy in having this kind of webinar or planning session. We are requesting, sir, kung pwede ba, can we receive a soft copy of this PowerPoint presentation from you for our division?
Yes, sir. Sige, sir. Unsa ka nga division, sir, if I may ask?
City of Bugo Division, sir.
City of Bugo. Sige.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Unsa pa?
So, any others?
Ako'y mangutana ron. O dili mangutana. Sige mo. Based on experience, ha? Sige mo ron. Naara ba si Sir Idar? Kung wala'y mangutana, Sir Idar, ako'y mangutana nila. Sige. Akong ipangutana ni sa City of Bugo Division. It has been how many years, sirs and ma'am, from that division that Yolanda hit our city, di ba? Way back 2013. So pila nam nakatuig? 18 years na.
Years.
Oh, as you can see, part of the city is still Bugo City. Well,
yes.
After that typhoon, what were the programs being implemented by City of Bugo Division to implement programs and projects in relation to DRRM? After that, lessons learned of Typhoon Yolanda. Sige, let me hear your insights to that question, sirs and ma'am. Sige, anybody from City of Bugo Division? Hello? Is it me you're looking for? Sige. Remember nga, kusog baya to, diha baya hinglabay si Typhoon Yolanda. Sige. After that typhoon, unsa may kabaghuan sa mga programa sa City of Bugo Division in relation to mitigate, kay nag-ingon naman kog 4 thematic area, di ba? Bisag mag-sample lang mo nga na-implement ninyo for the past 18 years after may igo sa Yolanda. Bisag usa lang sa kada thematic area, for example, disaster prevention and mitigation, di ba? Kay sa upat ka-thematic area naa may mga pre-disaster nga thematic area nga puno na to og activity before ka maigo kay ang katulo response and rehabilitation kaning duha maigo naman ka, di ba? Mao man imong implement nga activity kung maigo na ka. So karon katong duha akong gisgutan wala pa ka naigo. So after after Yolanda, unsa may himo ninyo nga programs kay unyag mo balik na po laing naay dako nga bagyo. Unsa may inyong programa nga gihimo kung aduna may mga maestra sa City of Bogo Division. Sige. Kanang inyong gi-practice na ha. Dili tong earthquake drill kay bagyo may akong gipangutana. Si Ridar. Walay motubag. Sige, so ang musaw sa tubag si Ridar. Sir.
Palihog kog share sa inyohang mga gipangbuhat sa Bugo. I understand you have a lot of activities conducted with regards to the preparedness and prevention. In fact, Bugo City Division awarded us a small division outstanding program implementers in disaster risk reduction and management. So palihog kog share sa atong partner sa Office of Civil Defense kung unsay atong inyong gipangbuhat diha sa Bugo City Division. Mga pinalangga na akong mga estudyante. Hello. Nawa man sila, engineer.
Para na sila sir na uwaw lang. Don't worry, dili bitaw mo graduhan ako, nangutana lang ko. Kay dugay naman ta nga wala magkita-kita after the post-disaster needs assessment nga gihimo nato after sa kuan. After ni Yolanda. Nag-post assessment mission man ta diha before. Na ako'y nakita nga eskwelahan nga nabag-o kay giguba ni Yolanda. Unya paghuman kay gisunog. Nasunog siya. The plains siya National Highway. So, ako lang ng mga personal nga nakita. Pero sa inyo pang after those years, unsa may himo pa ninyo aron mapalig-on kung dili magaling struktura, kundi katong non-structural nga mga activities nga inyong gihimo. Jerome, Sir Jerome, go ahead, sir. You raise your hand, sir. Hi, Sir Jerome. Nakamute ka, sir.
Sir, i-unmute, Sir Jerome.
Okay, sir. Good morning. From Division of City of Bogo, Lapas Elementary School. After sa Yolanda, sir, among gihimo diri nga mitigation, daghan man ning ipalibutan man ning dagkong kahoy. So proning usala sa among activity. Pruning of trees, kunya ang pagkuan sa agyanan sa tubig, sir. Nasa may kanang river cleaning, clean up drive. Amo na usa sa among activity dito, sir, after sa katong Typhoon Yolanda. So mamanidagan man mga dagkong kahoy nga natumbahan ng building. So mo to yung magibuhat dito sa among school, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. How about activities related to our students, no? Our learners, learners. No? Kay kato siya kay non-human side man to. How about on the human side, sir, para makaton ang atong learner nga on the next major typhoon, aduna say mga panagang as an individual to their family and community as well.
So information drive, sir, orientation sa mga bata nga unsay ang iandam before na sa kuan kay na may kuan nga naratol na okay wala sila kapangandam o sana sa kanang mga instant mga emergency kit, mga instant foods nga makuan dayon, sir. So sana siya nga kuan, sir, sa among kuan diri sa school.
Okay, thank you. I would suggest, Sir Idar, that every division, schools division, city division will have a question tingali. Kay nahumanan ta sa bugo, karkar, bayawan o bais pa, kuwang. Just to make it fair. Sayang manggod, sayang, sige na. Sayang ang panahon. We still have 15 minutes more to go before the clock hits 11 o'clock. Sige na mga sirs and ma'am, mga learners. Pangutana, labon kay naapa.
Okay, so may I encourage our learners, no, from Karkar City Division, by City Division, as well as Bayawan City Division. I understand nga doon na mo'y mga doubtful. So dapat ato na iklaro mo ni siya na si Engineer Balaba andam og pagana mo tupad sa inyong mga pangutana or clarifications no sa wala pag dato masabti or dugang pa nga input gikan sa iyaha.
Okay. Naay pangutana sa taga Libertad Elementary School kadtong Pacific Ring of Fire, sir. What about, sir, sa katong Ring of Fire? Sa may pangutana nimo sa Pacific Ring of Fire? Murag mo na akong pagsabot niya. Hello from Libertad Elementary School. Murag na sa chat box. Phil, mo ba Phil? Katong Pacific.
Nasa kuan sir, Libertad Elementary School, Ma'am Vanessa Alarde. Pwede ka ma'am maka-share with regards sa aning unsay pasabot nimo sa Pacific Ring of Fire, unsay gusto nimo mahibaw-an with regards sana?
Sir Philip, basig gusto ni pa-expound pag-ayo ang pasabot nga Pacific Ring of Fire. Basig mauna, basig mugawa sa ang iyang specific questions once nga ma-discuss otro ni Engineer Balaba.
Sige. Ma'am, from Libertad, madungog ko nimo. Ma'am. Okay na dahi ko, no? Okay na, sir. Sige. Akong balikon, ma'am, ha? Kanang color orange nga linya, na mura siya og porma o turtle, na diha ang naghatag aning word is ang mga expert, ma'am, when it comes to fault line sa entire globe. Unya namapa ni nila, ma'am, nga na dinhi ang mga major fault line in the Pacific area na mga countries, and as well as the South American countries, no, like Puerto Rico, Chile. I have classmates nga naa sila anak nga party, ma'am, on the right side. So those are part of the Pacific area nga naa po diha ang dagkong mga fault line nga mitadlas sa atong nasod, nga generator siya, ma'am, og major earthquakes. And likewise, naapod aning lugar, ma'am, ang mga nasod nga adunay mga daghan og volcano. nga mao po'y generator o volcanic induced hazard, no? Nga mo ay maka-create og tremor to these countries. So ang Pacific Ring of Fire is a term being used by experts. Klaro ba, ma'am? Unya kanang atong Pilipinas gipakita diha ang mga dagkong fault line on the right side nga on the left side nga picture, and on the right side is naay mga circle, mao nay mga earthquake activities ever since how many years back, mo nang kani sa right side nga mapa. So gipakita lang diha nga mao nay mga fault line map sa Pilipinas and seismic activity map on the right side. Thank you, ma'am. I hope I answer your question. Mo nang kani siya, ma'am, you can share this to your learners also kay science-based man eh. Salamat, ma'am. Sige, kinsa pa? Pila naman ka minutos, Phil, before 11 o'clock? Okay. Thank you sa City of Bugo Division for putting your answer in the chat box, ma'am and sir.
Thank you, sir. No, thank you sa Libertad Elementary School for considering that question. Now, natay gihatag information, sir, gikan sa City of Bugo Division, Binabag National High School. Ma'am Janice Conde, sir, among gibuhat nga student after Yolanda nga activities kay namina og TV informations or radio, nagandam o bag, emergency bag nga naanay foods, flashlight, bandage, and etc. in case ug naay moabot nga bagyo. So thank you for sharing, ma'am. So namo yung mga go bags, no? And always na mga information nga gihatag. So any other? So murag nasabtan naman tingali nila tanan, sir. So any answer, any words, sir? Balaba, sir, before or ako i-turn over kay Sir Ranelo Idar for his closing message.
Okay, thank you, Phil. And again, gentlemen and ladies, our teachers and our learners, if wala na'y pangutana, I would like to express my heartfelt thanks for your time and presence here. I hope I could see some of the beautiful faces in the... Please open your camera, sirs and ma'am, para makita asad mo. And to our learners and teachers, in behalf of Director Marlo Salazar, sirs and ma'am, salamat kayo, and I hope nga dili lang bisag wala ta nag face to face, but I know you're in your good shape with your family and your loved ones as well. So we always maintain the what has the government been issuing in relation to the minimum public health protocols that being implemented, still being implemented as of this very moment. Hindi lang ninyo, but also the entire community in your area. And as a learner, please disseminate all government's issued minimum public health protocols to your family members and your friends also, and especially our teachers as our good tool, no? Our source of teaching to other learners as well. So once again, in behalf of Director Marlo Salazar, thank you for attending this orientation on the Philippine Disaster Risk Reduction Management System hosted by the Office of Civil Defense. Once again, tagang salamat og maayong buntag sa tanan. Phil, back to you.
So thank you once again, Sir Balaba, sir. And before na ko i-turn over kay Sir Ranilo Idar, may I request everyone to please turn on your cameras para mag-picture sa kinsay mga attendees. No? Please turn on your cameras kay mag-picture sa group picture. Online picture. Group online picture. Whatever you call it, basta group picture ni siya.
Wear your smile also.
Kung katong walay mga tapad diha, pwede rin niyo tanggalan yung face mask. Pero kung na may tapad, please, pag face mask mo, no? So, turn on your cameras. Turn on. So, page 1 sa page 1. So, 3, 2, 1, smile. So, other one. Other page, second page, 3, 2, 1, smile. So, okay na. So, again, thank you. And I will now turn over the floor to Sir Ranelo Idar, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, Sir Philip. Okay, in behalf of our Regional Director, Dr. Salustiano Jimenez, o sa mga key officials sa Regional Office 7. So kami magpasalamaton sa inyong participation karong buntag nga, no? Bisag hamubo nga panahon, but still, I understand you learned a lot from this webinar that you can share it to your respective classmates, your father, your mother, your sister, no? Sa atong mga neighborhood. So, ato na i-share ang atong nahibaw-an karon kung unsa ang mga panghitabo or citizeners sa ato ang dasod in terms sa atong Philippine Disaster Risk Reduction and Management System. So hopefully nga kani nakahatag og dako sa inyo in terms ma-enhance ang inyong knowledge, no? Para nga atong ma-apply sa inyong adlaw-adlaw nga mga pagpanginabuhi nining kalibutan. According by Sir ni Engineer Balaba, we experience numbers of typhoon every year, an average of 20. So we can use this knowledge in applying our day-to-day activities, no, to prevent further damage that whatever calamities that may happen sa ato ang lugar. Again, salamat gyud sa inyong tanan, sa inyong time, sa pagpaminaw sa discussion sa atong discussion karong butaga. Then magpasalamat usab ko sa atong partner sa Office of Civil Defense nga mihatag nining webinar para gyud sa atong mga learners diri sa DepEd Region 7. Again, salamat sa inyong tanan. Goodbye sa akong mga partner, mga bata, mga chatting sa within DepEd Region 7.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, God bless.
So daghang salamat sa tanan. Maayong buntag.
Thank you, God bless.
Ang tanan.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. God bless.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Bye, sir.
Thank you. Bye, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Our country has encountered several incidents. We have learned from our past.
We cannot prevent the disasters from happening, but we can mitigate their effects on our people.
The government has a well-defined and in-place response system. During disaster response, the DND plays a big role through the Secretary of National Defense, the Armed Forces of the Philippines, and the Office of Civil Defense. You can see here the Operation Center. It is a platform for coordination among different agencies involved in disaster response, and this was equipped in the year 2017, and we are building more of this kind of facilities. The DND has two bureaus that it can rely on for disaster response. First is the Armed Forces of the Philippines.
The Armed Forces of the Philippines is always at the forefront of disaster management.
Whenever there's a disaster, they are the ones that are already prepared even before an event happens.
The OCD, meanwhile, has the overall implementing arm and coordinator of the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council.
The work of the PDRRMS is actually 24 hours a day monitoring what disasters will strike any part of the country.
The role of the Armed Forces of the Philippines during disasters is to assist the National Disaster Risk Reduction Management Council. It is deployed anywhere in the Philippines to provide technical level search and rescue and retrieval operations. We train for water search and rescue, collapsed structure search and rescue, high angle search and rescue, emergency medical services, and hazardous materials.
Our servicing capability to our people has improved as well, in the sense that we have seen the steady reduction of casualties. We learn to be more proactive. We prepare earlier. We prepare our people earlier. They have been improving in all these years. The professionalism, the character of our workforce, the civil defense staff cannot be oversimplified.
Welcome to the Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology, or PHIVOLS. PHIVOLS is a service institute of the Department of Science and Technology that is mandated to mitigate disasters that may arise from volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, tsunami, and other related geotectonic phenomena. PHIVOLS operations focus on monitoring and warning, research and development to evaluate the occurrence and scale of the geological events, hazards and risk assessment to determine areas that can be affected and impacts that can happen, and awareness and capacity building activities to reduce risk from geological hazards. PHIVOLS monitors 10 of the 24 active volcanoes in the Philippines, operates 109 earthquake monitoring stations that are strategically located all over the country, and 29 sea level stations and 53 alerting stations along the coast for tsunami monitoring and warning. In this virtual tour, you will see the PHIVOLS Volcano Monitoring Data Receiving Center and the Earthquake and Tsunami Monitoring Data Receiving Center, equipped with state-of-the-art instruments. From this, PHIVOLS provides timely information and warning to different stakeholders. PHIVOLS also developed innovations on disaster risk reduction for easy access to information and quick hazards assessment. Some of these innovations include the Rapid Earthquake Damage Assessment Software, or REDAS, now a platform for multi-hazard and impact assessment. The Hazard Hunter PH application for quick and easy-to-use multi-hazards assessment. The How Safe Is My House application, a simple tool for owners and occupants to evaluate the safety of concrete hollow block houses to earthquakes. And the Volcano PH Info app that provides latest volcano information, bulletins, and advisories.
The Volcano Monitoring and Eruption Prediction Division is responsible for the National Volcano Monitoring and Warning Program. It operates real-time with integrated multi-parameter volcano monitoring systems. The Seismological Observations and Earthquake Prediction Division is charged with the National Earthquake Monitoring and Information and the National Tsunami Monitoring and Early Warning Programs. During an earthquake, the information from seismic stations are transmitted, received, and analyzed at the Data Receiving Center, which operates 24/7. This ensures that any data from PHIVOX stations are immediately assessed and earthquake information is relayed to the concerned government agencies as well as to the public.
From its humble beginnings as a small stockroom of supplies, the National Resource Operations Center has grown to be the national facility of the government for disaster response, particularly the production of family food packs or FFPs. NROP developed into a facility with a total land area of 20,349 square meters and is composed of 8 warehouses managed by the National Resource and Logistics Management Bureau and has the capacity to store almost 200,000 FFPs and produce at least 50,000 to 100,000 FFPs in a 24-hour operation. Warehouse A has a total area of 800 square meters and stores the finished family food packs ready for augmentation to our field offices and local government units. Warehouse B has a total area of 800 square meters and stores raw materials needed for the production of family food packs. Warehouse C is the biggest warehouse in the facility and stores non-food items such as the family clothing kits, sleeping kits, hygiene kits, kitchen kits, and some donated items. Warehouse D has a total area of 940 square meters. It stores the sacks of rice and houses the rice bagging machine of the mechanized production system. The Warehouse E has a floor area of 940 square meters and houses the mechanized production system. With the support of the United Nations World Food Program, the mechanized production system was installed at warehouses D and E in 2015. The UNWFP also completed the installation of racking systems at warehouses A, B, E, and G, which can store up to 948 pallets. Warehouse F has an area of 600 square meters that stores non-food items. The Warehouse G has an area of 800 square meters. It stores some of the finished family food packs. This is also where the Volunteers Orientation Room is located and can be used also for manual production of family food packs. Lastly, the Warehouse H has an area of 720 square meters. Finished family food packs are also stored here, and manual production and vacuum packing of rice is done. Aside from the National Resource Operations Center, we also have warehouses in our Visayas Disaster Resource Center located at Mandaue City, Cebu. The goal of the VDRC is to augment the needed relief items in the Visayas and Mindanao field offices. The DSWD has 16 field offices that caters the different regions in the Philippines. Each field office has warehouses where they store their food and non-food items for distribution to the affected local government units in times of disasters. As the lead agency in social protection, the DSWD assures the public that it will continuously strengthen and improve its systems and procedures to ensure that those needing help will be efficiently and immediately assisted, especially during the times of disasters.
Katuwang ang mga kapuspala.
The Philippines, through the Philippine Atmospheric, Geophysical, and Astronomical Services Administration, is a member of the World Meteorological Organization, a specialized body of the United Nations. Priding ourselves as the forerunner of weather and climate science in the region, we have spent decades of training, research, and international collaboration. Originally stationed in Padre Faura, DOST Pag-asa is a critical national agency issuing tropical cyclone, flood, and climate forecasts and warnings. Growing proud to be a credible national meteorological and hydrometeorological service, peopled with highly trained weather forecasters and observers who keep up-to-date information on daily forecasts. Our meteorologists continue to study weather and climate phenomena relevant to people's safety and understand the structure and development of tropical cyclone to mitigate the effects of hydromet hazards. Our hydrologists understand the structure and development of typhoons to possibly mitigate the effects of disastrous floods. Our global reach has effective linkages with scientific organizations, promoting exchange of scientific information and cooperation among personnel engaged in atmospheric, geophysical, astronomical and space studies, Pag-asa's 5 regional stations across the country, which are ready to give evidence-based localized weather information and related services, are highly dependable. 57 synoptic stations gathers all the meteorological elements at fixed observation times. 23 agromet stations provide agricultural meteorological advice. 8 upper air stations conduct observation of atmospheric pressure, temperature, humidity, and wind speed and direction, or a combination of all these variables at several layers of the upper atmosphere by electronic means. A wind tunnel used in aerodynamic research to study the effects of air moving past solid objects. 1 wind profiler. 155 automatic weather stations, 187 automatic rain gauges, 47 water level sensors, 2 automatic weather observing system, 2 high-frequency Doppler radar, 16 Doppler weather radars, 6 meteorological satellite facilities, 1 planetarium. We are with the Filipino people all day and night in multiple platforms so we can cascade information far and wide. Our influence in social media is getting significant, but we maintain our presence in TV, radio, and newspapers. Our work is beyond hard science. We inform people to keep them safe and their properties protected at all times. We are expanding and pumped up enough for the new wave of innovation of weather sciences as we realize our modernization plan.